Good morning. We are going to first start with the Junior Scholastic skill sheet. This is just a vocabulary. I'm going to provide you two videos, one with the words, just so you have an understanding of what some of these words may mean. And then I'm going to create a new video of the article that you will be reading today. Pardon me. The video or the article that you will be reading today is A Tale of Two Indias. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, these are the words that you need to know. If you follow along with me, you'll notice here it says read the following definitions. See where I marked the green? Okay, so basically that is just saying that you need to just know the definitions and the examples. Now it's also going to, once I read it to you, if you notice right here where it says then on a separate sheet of paper write a definition and an example sentence for two other words from the issue, you do not need to do that. Okay, you do not. So let's just pretend that it's not there and you do not. Okay, do not need to do that. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm going to read the definitions. I will explain, give you the examples, and then we will stop the video and then I'll find the article on A Tale of Two Indias from Junior Scholastic and I will read it to you and you can follow along as I read it. All right, here we go. Abdicate. To formally give a position of power, responsibility, or influence. An example is, in 2013, after 33 years on the throne, Queen Juliana of the Netherlands abdicated to allow her son to succeed her. So I mean, she's giving approval. Okay, she's saying, here, you are in charge now. She's giving him that approval. Or she made that decision. Axis powers, number 2. Germany, Italy, Japan, and other countries that fought together against the US, the UK, and the Soviet Union and their allies in World War II. An example, hostile acts of expansion in the 1930s by all three of the majority Axis powers helped sow the seeds of World War II. So basically that's saying is that they aligned together, okay, to try to expand the territory, to try to take over. And of course, this is what planted the seeds for World War II. Black market, number 3. A system in which things are illegally bought, sold, or traded. Example, cell phones and rhino horns are examples of things commonly sold on the black market. So another example would be purses, like name brand items. A lot of times you'll find them at high-end stores like Nordstrom's. If you go to Nordstrom's or Saks Fifth Avenue, if you were to buy a purse like a Louis Vuitton, a small bag would cost you anywhere from $1,200 and up. But then you'll find something very similar to that online, or you may even find it, let's say, at a flea market and only find it for like $30-$40. That's them selling an item that is similar to a Louis Vuitton. It's not an official Louis Vuitton, but it looks like it at a lower cost. Okay? Number 4, cartel. A group that controls a product's price and distribution and limits competition. Example, a cartel called the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries has a majority influence on global oil prices. So this would be an example of a group that controls or monopolizes a certain product or item that is in need, but they control the vast majority of the selling of the product. Okay, or controlling the prices, or how they're limiting the price or limiting the product itself. Diplomat. A person who works to keep good relations between the government of different countries. Example, the Secretary of State is the top diplomat in the U.S. So this is someone who is supporting the country in a good way. They're kind of, think of it like a cheerleader. Okay, they're, yay, the United States, and yes, we are great, and yes, we can do these things, not only for us, but we can also find ways to support you. So diplomat is someone that's keeping good relations between us and other countries. Epidemic. Number 6. A widespread condition, practice, or phenomenon or outbreak of disease that spreads very quickly. Example, The Spanish flu epidemic of 1918 killed as many as 40 million people. An example could be COVID-19, coronavirus. It's an epidemic, it's a disease that spread from China, and over time it started spreading into other parts of the world. Now it's in the United States, so it's an outbreak, right? Just by touching someone, being near someone, and they might not show symptoms, but they could be a carrier. So this is why they are expressing that we need to have that social distance and why we're not in school today. Number 7, hierarchy. A system in which people or things are ranked according to relative status or authority. Example, in the military's hierarchy, a general is more powerful than a captain. So if I wanted to give you an example that you could understand, let's think of Garcia Middle School. The hierarchy starts with, just in our school in general, you have your principal, Dr. Lopez. Then you have your vice principal, Mrs. Heim. Your assistant vice principal, that would be Mr. Castillo. You have your academic dean, Mrs. Poblano. And then, of course, your teacher. So everyone's in a hierarchy. You go from the top all the way and just kind of follow the order of leadership. Monarchy. Government with a hereditary head of state. Example, ancient Rome became a monarchy when Tiberius inherited the role of emperor from his stepfather, Augustus, in 14 AD. So a monarchy could be a king and queen. Okay, so we've talked a lot about that, so I won't go much further on that. Quota, number 9. A set of number or percentage of a particular group of people needed to meet a minimum requirement. Example, according to Norway's legal quotas, a company must reserve 40% of the seats on its corporate board for women. So a quota could be is the amount of something, trying to reach a quota and making sure that you meet that quota. Okay, you want to make sure you meet that. Number 10, regime. A government in power, usually a repressive one. Example, under the country's previous regime, its people's freedom was extremely limited. So you can think of maybe the regime of, let's think of Cuba. We could think of other countries that we've learned about over time where they have a government that has a very unlimited government, and they also have people like soldiers or captains, generals that are helping manifest the poverty or the oppression that is happening in these countries. We've talked a lot about that, so I'll just keep going. Number 11, scapegoat. To unfairly blame a person or a group of people for the wrongdoings, mistakes, or fault of others. Example, the CEO was the scapegoat for the company's problems. So this would be, an example could be if someone did something, a group of people did something that either was not right, or let's just say something went wrong in a company. They're going to want to blame someone. Instead of blaming everybody for the problem that happened, they usually will find somebody where a group of people say, okay, it's that person's fault and this is why it happened. Okay, so it's picking that one person. It's not a good thing, but it's what happens. It does happen a lot. Socialist, number 12. Based on the principle that property and businesses should be controlled by government on behalf of the people rather by individuals. Examples. Critics say leaders of socialist governments claim to represent the people, but often keep all the power for themselves. So we could think of a socialist government where we've learned that a socialist government believes that everyone is equal to each other, right? That they all have this, they all pay taxes. They have the same amount of taxes, regardless whether you're lower class, middle class, or higher class. And really, they don't have classes, right? Everybody is equal. So with a socialist, a lot of people believe that it actually gives more power to the government. So it could be a hit or miss in a socialist government. Number 13, wildlife tourism. The practice of visiting certain locations in order to see or interact with wild animals. Example, swimming with dolphins is a form of wildlife tourism that alarms animal rights advocates. So an example would be, a lot of us have been, we've been to we've been to, let's see, I don't know, Cabo, we've been to different parts of Mexico. We've been to, I don't know, oh my God, I can't think of them. Not the Philippines. I know a lot of people have not. Some of us have been to Hawaii. Some have been to the Bahamas. Some of us have been to Jamaica. So some of you have been able to swim with dolphins, swim with stingrays. Others have maybe even been to Africa, or maybe some have been to some parts of the zoo and you see wildlife. Well, in reality, these people are making money from that. But in reality, to a lot of people who advocate for animals, they believe that animals should be left alone. They are there for a reason. They should not be taken out of their habitat. Many of us have been to SeaWorld, for example. You have big whales that are inside those big pools, but in reality, those pools aren't big enough for them, right? So this is why a lot of people advocate against these people making money for people to enjoy wildlife in a way where they wouldn't be normally wouldn't be able to see them, because you can't go to the jungle, you can't go to the middle of the sea or the ocean and swim with shamu, right? So a lot of animal rights advocate for the animals. All right, my angels. So this is the Junior Scholastic Words to Know for the Tale of Two Indias. I will be providing you with a second recording on the Tale of Two Indias. All right, so that is just for you to follow along, and it is important that you understand this vocabulary and what the examples are, so you have an understanding of what you are reading. Thank you very much.